Hello everyone and welcome to Math Time with the Math King, or Mr. Sinclair. I wish I saw all of you right now, but it's good to talk to you and I hope you're all doing really well. I hope your families are doing well too, staying home, staying safe, washing your hands and wearing your masks. It's time for us to do some math today, and I'm going to try to put on some videos, some assignments, some math games, things to try to keep you going with your math lessons in your regular class, and other things that might help you out. If you need any help along the way, let me know. Send me a message in Google Classroom, and I'll try to answer it as quickly as I can. This way, if you get stuck, there's a way for you to get some help. Today we're going to work on multiplying and dividing powers of 10. Okay, so first let's talk about what is a power of 10. Well, powers of 10 are when we're going to multiply or divide with tens, and we have to decide how many. So if I have 10 to the first power, well, 10 to the first power is just 10. That's 1 10. That's all it is. If I have 10 to the second power, or 10 squared, well, now I have two 10s. I have a 10 and a 10, and I'm going to multiply them together. When I multiply 10 times 10, I get 100. Let's try 10 to the third power, or 10 cubed. 10 to the third power means I have 3 10s this time. So I will multiply 10 times 10 times 10. You'll start to see a pattern. When I had 10 to the first power, I just had 10, 1 0. 10 to the second power, 10 times 10, 2 was my exponent, 2 zeros. Now I have 10 to the third power. Well, 10 times 10 we figured out is 100. 100 times 10 is 1,000. Notice my exponent here is 3, and I have 3 zeros. I think you can see the pattern that we have going on here. Whatever my exponent is when I'm doing a power of 10, that's how many zeros I'll have with a 1 in front of it. So if I were to have 10 to the 7th power, my answer would be a 1 and 7 zeros, which is 10 million. Okay, so we are going to use this to help us multiply and divide by powers of 10. Let's start with the pretty easy one. What if I have 3 and 7 tenths times 10 to the first power, which we know is just 10. 10 to the first power is just 10. So I'm multiplying 3 and 7 tenths times 10. Whenever I multiply by 10, I'm going to be moving my numbers to the left, my decimal point to the right. So if I'm moving it one place, I can move my decimal point over to here, and instead of my decimal here, my answer will now be 37. I don't need to put a decimal point here because there's nothing coming after it. Unless I have more numbers in my answer, I don't need a decimal point there. I can get rid of the decimal point at this time. Okay? For example, if I have 5 and 49 hundredths times 10 to the first power, well, again, I'm going to move my decimal place to the right once, which will put it here. So when I write my answer, I will put my 5. Now I'm going to put my 4 next because I moved my decimal point over. It goes here now. And then I have to put my 9. I can't forget to put the 9 down after I put my decimal point. So because I multiplied by 10, or 10 to the first power, my number went from 5 and 49 hundredths to 54 and 9 tenths. If I have a small number like this, 8 and 2 tenths, and I'm multiplying by a bigger power of 10, let's say 10 to the third power, well, I'm going to move my decimal point 3 places, but there aren't 3 places after this decimal. I have nothing there. So I have to be very careful I'm going to take my 8 2/10 and move that decimal point 3 places this time. So I'm going to say 1 place, 2 places, 3 places, and my new decimal point will go right here. But what about these places where there's nothing there? I have to now add a 0 to those places. So my decimal point goes at the end. There's nothing after it, which of course means I can get rid of it. And my answer here will be 8,200, because I moved the decimal point all the way from here 3 places over, which means I had to add extra places to the end. So when I have to add those extra places to the end, I make them zeros and just get rid of the decimal point. That's the simple way of multiplying with powers of 10. Now we're going to do the same thing with dividing, except instead of moving the decimal point to the right, we're going to move the decimal point to the left. You can see that multiplying and dividing by powers of 10 is usually pretty simple. It's just moving the decimal place however many times it tells us to in our exponent. Let's try some dividing with powers of 10. As you can all see, working from home, I don't have a very good size whiteboard, and I'm using a sock for my eraser. I have to get to Walmart and buy a new dry eraser. But that's not too important. We'll use the sock for now. Let's work on dividing by powers of 10. Okay, when I divide by powers of 10, 4 96/100 divided by this time, let's say 10 to the first power. We'll start off easy. That's just 1 place. Now remember, when I multiplied, I moved my decimal to the right. Since I'm dividing is the opposite of multiplying, so I'm going to do the opposite to my decimal. Instead of moving it to the right, I'm going to move it to the left, 1 place. So now my answer will be, the decimal point has moved. It's here now. 496 thousandths. My decimal point now goes at the beginning because I moved it 1 place to the left. Dividing goes to the right. And an easy way to remember that is, when I move my decimal point to the right, my number gets bigger. If I moved it 1 place to the right, I would go from 4 to 49. When I move it to the left, it gets smaller. Dividing makes things smaller, multiplying makes things bigger. So this time I moved it 1 place to the left and I got 496 thousandths. Now, it was pretty easy when I was multiplying by powers of 10. If I ran out of places and didn't have enough numbers, I could just add zeros to the end and get rid of my decimal. Dividing is a little trickier and a little bit different. So let's take a look. Now I have 53 7/10 divided by 10 to the third power, or 10 cubed. That means I have to move left, because it's dividing, 3 places. When I move this decimal point left 3 places, I don't have enough numbers over here. Let's take a look. I go 1, 2, 3. Nothing is there. Just like with multiplying, I'm going to add zeros. The difference is I can't get rid of the decimal point now. The decimal point has to stay because I need to show that this is still a decimal. So I moved my decimal point to here. I add my 0 into any empty spaces, any empty places that I have. And now my answer is decimal point 0, 5, 3, 7. Don't forget that 7. Even though it doesn't have any markings under it and looks like it hasn't been used, it still needs to go at the end of your answer. So this number now, we don't say the 0 here. we would say 537 10,000ths. Tenths place, hundredths place, thousandths place, 10,000ths place. That's how I decide what word I'm going to say with my decimal. 537 10,000ths. Let's try one more so you get a good idea of what we're doing. This time I will go 26, and this is the time we say and now when we see that decimal. Remember, we don't say and any other time when we're reading a number except when there's a decimal point. 26 and 1300ths divided by 10 to the second power, or 10 squared. Okay, so I know my decimals here. I look to my exponent. It's a 2. Since it's dividing, I'm going to move to the left 2 places. 1, 2. Easy enough. My decimal's now going to go right here. So my answer is decimal point 2613. Or 2,613 10,000ths. Same number of places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the 10,000ths place. So I would say it 2,613 10,000ths. Don't send me messages saying you forgot the comma, Mr. Sinclair. We only use commas before the decimal. After every 3 numbers, we put our comma before the decimal. After the decimal, we do not ever use commas. So you won't see commas here at all. 2,000s, you say it just like you would the regular number. If the decimal point wasn't there, 2,613, but because of the decimal point, we have to say what place it ends in. So it's 2,613 10,000ths. I hope this helps with your multiplying and dividing by powers of 10. Good luck when you're working on your work. And again, if you need any help, send me a message on Google Classroom, even if it's just to say hi. I'd love to hear from all of you. And tell me some things that you're doing during our time staying home. But if you need help with your math, let me know that too. Every day I'll be on my computer and my phone, checking for messages, looking to see how your work is coming, and I hope things are going really well. Have a great day and enjoy your math.